Mangalacharan. We are reading the Bhagavad Gita as it is. We are on chapter 13. Chapter 13 is called the nature, the enjoyer, and the consciousness. And we are on text 8 to 12. We have covered Mataji, humility and non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, cleanliness, steadiness, false ego, and attachment for children, wife, and home. And today we are on happiness and distress. So I guess it would be 8, 11, 12, Mataji. But you can correct me if I'm wrong. So,
yes, Mataji. Perfect.
Thank you, Mataji. So I hand over to you.
Sounds good, Mataji. Thank you so much. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Kauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashayata Deshadarani. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Kaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Jai Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna. So thank you, Mataji, for giving me this opportunity to speak on the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We are discussing about the 20 elements of knowledge. And today we will see about that is even-mindedness amidst pleasant and unpleasant events. And if time permits, we can also go into the next verse, depending on however. So first of all, I take my, I want to do pranams to all the devotees here on the call. I want to seek your blessings so that I may be able to speak the relevant words of Srila Prabhupada and all our acharyas. So please bless me, dear devotees, so that I'm able to speak the relevant words. Thank you. Vancha kalpatarupyasya kripasantubhye vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna. All right, let's get started. I was thinking maybe I should just touch on detachment a little bit because it is a very important topic, and being into Grahastha Ashrama, we should not come to a wrong conclusion on what detachment means. And hence I thought maybe I'd spend like 5 to 7 minutes on that and then go ahead with our topic, if that's okay with everybody.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay.
That would be very good.
Okay, great. All right. So what is this purpose of detachment? The purpose of detachment is to facilitate and maximize our attachment to Krishna. So whatever helps us to become more attached to Krishna, we do that. So detachment means clear-headedness. We should not confuse that between there is something called attachment and there is something called affection. What is this attachment? Attachment means if we are attached to someone and for that person, we do whatever the person wants, no matter what. Even if it is good, we do that for that person. I mean, even if it is not good, because we are so attached to the person, we do that for that person. Meaning, if that person wants something that is not good, we do it. Because we are attached to that person. We don't differentiate between good and bad. Because we are attached, we are overwhelmed with that attachment and we do whatever the person asks for. So in the case, I would like to quote some examples that are relevant from the Shastras so that we better understand this point. Okay, we have Dhritarashtra. He was attached to his son Duryodhana. And because of that, Duryodhana wanted to do adharma. And Dhritarashtra, did he stop? No. He said, okay, no problem. Dhritarashtra went along with it. On the other hand, we see Vidura. He was affectionate towards Dhritarashtra. So Vidura at one time renounced the world because he repeatedly tried to give good advice to Dhritarashtra. But finally, Dhritarashtra not only rejected his advice, but stood silently when Duryodhana insulted him and banished Yudhira, right? And because of that, Vidura left. But after the Kurukshetra war, when Dhritarashtra's attachment had been exposed, he had become a little open-minded. And then Vidura had left home and gone to the forest, but he came back. Why did he come back? To guide Dhritarashtra. So was this attachment? Was he practicing was he not practicing what he preached? No, he had affection naturally for his brother and he wanted to do good for him. Right? Earlier, Dhritarashtra's attachment had been blinding him. So when there is no binding or blinding love, then he would have had an open mindset. Because he was overly attached to Duryodhana, he knew whatever Duryodhana was doing was really wrong. He was not respecting elders. He was ill-treating the Pandavas. In fact, he set fire to the house of Pandavas. He was trying to poison the Bhima. So many incidents happened, but Dhritarashtra kept quiet. That is because of his attachment. So affection means when we want to do good to others, we let the relationship lift them up. So attachment means we let the relationship drag us down. So attachment obviously is undesirable, but affection is natural, right? We have affection towards our children. We want them to be in Krishna consciousness. We want them to do the right thing in the life. So for that sake, we always have Krishna in the center. When we have Krishna in the center, we know what is right and what is wrong, and Krishna is guiding us through Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, other scriptures. So whenever our children deviate or go on the wrong side, because of the affection we have for them, we try to give them instructions from the scriptures. Even though we have affection for them, we don't let them go bad, right? So when we have to test ourselves whether we are attached or affectionate. Affectionate means for the sake, we have Krishna in the center. We don't lose the focus of Krishna at any point in time. We don't forget Krishna. Because of attachment, we should not forget his instructions. We should not forget who we are. We are dasanu, dasanu, das. We should never forget the instructions of Krishna, and we should never forget him also. Because of attachment, if we are forgetting Krishna, that is when we have to come back. Come back and definitely get situated and put Krishna in the center again. So this is what is detachment. So we all have our emotions to our children, and that is natural. We all have emotion towards our family. That is very natural. But again, how are we having Krishna? Are we following his instructions? Are we being overly attached because of which we forget his instructions? That is something we have to ask ourselves. So again, attachment, affection refers to natural emotions. There is a human connection that has to be there, and it's vital for everybody to exist. When we are relating to people, we have to relate to them and be a complete person. So we can't say, I love your soul, but I can't care for your body. That is not something that is advisable, right? Srila Prabhupada, during his Vyasa Puja, amidst the grand celebration, he was asking a devotee who was limping and asked him, what happened to you? So during Vyasa Puja, Srila Prabhupada also gave him a prescription, how to prepare a homemade medicine so that his limping or whatever that problem that devotee had can be cured. So in a relationship, when we take care of the body, mind, and soul. So protection is just not physical protection, telling people this is right, this is wrong. So this is good for you, this is bad for you. It is important. It is definitely important, but along with that, we should value people. We should feel for people's emotion. People should feel cared for. People should feel cherished for. So this is the success of our movement. We should always be, not hard-hearted, right? I mean, we should be kind-hearted. We should be compassionate. This is what our movement teaches us. So because we are in the process of bhakti, and for the sake of bhakti, we should not become hard-hearted to people. We should always have that affection and emotion to people, but again, it should be Krishna-centric. And then only the people will understand, see how good of a person you are. Not only that, we are representing ISKCON. So it's very important for us that ISKCON is represented in the right way. And for that, we have to strive for it. We have to strive to protect Srila Prabhupada's movement. So our character is very important in that perspective. Okay, so just wanted to say these things to you so that obviously I just wanted to touch few things on detachment so that we have the right context, and then now we can get started to the next section. So hope that's okay. If we have anything that that you want to talk about, I can certainly talk about it. Mataji, it's up to you. On detachment.
Hare Krishna, anybody has a question or comment on detachment? Mataji, sometimes for devotees or people who are on these paths, Mataji, excuse me, I will have to go. My daughter's just had a baby boy and she's just been discharged and she's at the door. So
sure. Congratulations, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Kumar Prabhuji, kindly take over. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, Mataji. Correct. Hare Krishna. Any question? Avinash Prabhuji, Prahlad Prabhuji, any question? Okay, Mataji, I think no question. Prahlad Prabhuji, please.
No, I don't have a question.
Avinash Prabhuji.
No, thank you. So Mataji can continue.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Yeah. Am I audible, Prabhu?
Yes,
yes, Prabhuji, please take over.
Yes, Mataji, you just described that we're supposed to be give the importance of a body, mind, and soul. But when we come to see these great Mahajans and Acharya of our previous Acharyas like Haridas Thakur and Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, they have not so much importance given to the body. Also, body is important, but they are not giving too much importance on that body. We can know the Haridas Thakur, he also chanting 300,000 name, when also not taking any food, okay? And also Rupa Goswami, and he also eat the mud from the Jamuna river. And so many, they have not so much attention to that body. So how we can define that one, like if we are giving importance body, mind, and soul, and in that way, when the example is there, then that is some different. So please elaborate.
Yes, Prabhuji. So what happens is, as a person becomes more and more spiritually advanced, the necessities, the basic necessities of the body start to decrease, because the ananda or the bliss that they experience is incomparable. And because of that, these necessities of the body, they gradually start to deteriorate. And that is the reason they don't feel the need for food. And if you look at Dhruva Maharaj, he was subsisting on grains, and then he left that also. Then he went to, his austerity started to increase. After that, he was only breathing. At one point, he left breathing also. And then he was completely immersed in the meditation of the Lord. So even for us as devotees, what we are asked to do is we should, when it comes to the bodily needs, we should not be overly attached to them, like eating food for that matter. We have to make sure that we eat only the quantity that is just half filling. Ayurveda says that we have to only fill our stomach 50%, and the rest 25% is air, and rest 25 is water. So this is how a devotee is supposed to have an intake on the food. And for us, a body is important because through the body only we can do the service. But for elevated devotees, they have crossed everything. They are beyond that stage of eating, because all that they could think of is ananda, and they get that ananda, and that gives the nourishment to the body, and that is helping them sustain the body. Although also the dependence on the Lord increases at that point. They think everything is Krishna and nothing, it's not up to me to control my body, or the period that I live is not dependent on my body. It's Krishna's mercy that whatever period of time I'm there in this life, I should just utilize it for Krishna's sake, and it's up to Krishna. So their dependence on the Lord also increase apart from the bodily demands. So this is my understanding, Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you very much. It is happened on the elevated level.
Yes.
So that, there is no basic need or bodily requirement. Yes. Thank you, Mataji. Yes, please, you can go ahead.
Okay. So Srila Prabhupada, he says, happiness and distress are concomitant factors of material life. One should learn to tolerate as advised in Bhagavad Gita. One can never restrict the coming and going of happiness and distress. So one should be detached from the materialistic way of life and be automatically equipoised in both the cases. Generally, when we get something desirable, we are happy. And when we get something undesirable, we are distressed. But if we are actually in the spiritual position, these things do not agitate us. To reach that stage, we have to practice unbreakable devotional service. Devotional service to Krishna without deviation means engaging oneself in the 9 processes of devotional service. So this is the process that needs to be followed. So here he quotes the verse from Bhagavad Gita, that Srila Prabhupada quotes the verse from Bhagavad Gita, and he says one should learn to tolerate as advised in the Bhagavad Gita. So it's very important for us to understand what verse number 2.14, which is Matra Sparshas tu Kaunteya Sitoshna Sukha Dukkadaha Agama Payinu Nityas Tam Titikshasva Bharata. Matra Sparshas. What is Matra Sparshas? Sparsha is contact with the matra, which is the sense object. So material things which comprises sense objects. So Matra Sparshas refers to contact with material senses. So sense objects, they come in contact with the material senses, and that is the reason for this various dualities that we are seeing. First is Sitoshna, heat and cold. Sukha Dukkha, happiness and distress. So now one should understand this. It is Agama Paino Nityas. That means these dualities, there is a beginning to them and there is also an end to such things. And therefore, it is temporary. So one should learn to tolerate. Tam Stitikshasva Bharata. Because they are temporary, they have a beginning. They are there only for a certain period of time. Whenever the senses come in contact with the sense objects, there is happiness or distress that occurs for a certain period of time, and it does not last for a permanent time. And that is why it is not, worthy for us to tolerate that. Say, for example, a leech gets stuck with our body and they will stuck our body. Even if you try to pull the leech out of your body, they are not going to come out. But when their tummy is full, when their quota for blood is filled, then what will they do? They will leave the body. In the case of leech, obviously, we don't want to tolerate. We want to get it out of the body. But just for example, I'm just telling you, this is what is toleration. This is what tolerate means. When we can't do anything, we should be patient. There is no way, whatever you do, that is not going to help you with that situation. So in that case, what do? You tolerate. So Krishna is saying, Agama Paino Nityas. That means there is a beginning and there is an end, because of which it is temporary. Like sometimes it becomes too hot and sometimes it becomes too cold. So what do we do? People, they just show their emotions. They get frustrated, they get irritated, they try to become angry upon other people because of the climate change. But what do we gain by that? Nothing, right? So we need to tolerate it. Sometimes toleration is not, say, for example, in today's world, if you are tolerating, it is not considered good. That is worldly perception, right? People think, oh, he's tolerating. He seems like an important guy. So, but toleration in Bhagavad Gita It's not that we are impotent. We allow things to happen, but we keep our priorities fixed. What is our priority? Our priority is bhakti related activities. It is important for me. So we put our energy, time, heart in doing that bhakti related activities. So when we do our activities, which are bhakti related activities or which are of devotional service, so many things start to pop up. Okay, we are not able to do what we wanted to do. So what happens ultimately? We get distracted, right? So the biggest battle in life is to make sure that we are not distracted by these petty things in life. What is important? What is our priority? What is our goal? Right? That is important, and that needs to be taken priority. And so this is material things. We also should understand that that would keep changing. Like heat and cold, happiness and distress, they will come and go. Like how we go through the different phases of our human life, right? Old age, youth, childhood, all this, there is a change there. Like that, the material things also, there is change. They will come and go, and we should not be carried away by it. What we have to be focused on, Tam Stitikshasva Bharata. So this is what is important. So tolerance is not impotence. Obviously, the modern world has different definitions, and they will call it at different terms. But for a spiritualistic devotee, we should understand why we are tolerating, because we have a higher plan. We have a higher goal. That is the reason we tolerate. And again, see, we have very little energy, right? Whatever energy we have, that energy should be utilized in Krishna consciousness. If it is utilized in getting angry with people, if it is utilized in criticizing people, if it is utilized in doing some other activity which is not going to lead you in Krishna consciousness, what happens? You're dissipating and giving the energies to all other things. And in the process, you're losing your energy and you completely become drained out. Say, for example, you're getting angry with your relative. What happens in that process? So much energy gets wasted. It is literally getting wasted. So what we should do, see, and at the end of the day, you don't come to an agreement. That person is persistent on whatever he is saying is right, and you are persistent on whatever you think is right. You don't come to an agreement. But at the end, you lost all your energy. And when you are going to chant, will you be able to chant with attentive rounds? Will you be able to do attentive rounds? No. How can you do? Because your mind will be thinking about what had happened with your relative or with your friend or whomever you fought with. It will be thinking about that. Do we need to disrupt our chanting for the sake of petty arguments? Not at all. That is where tolerance comes into play, and that is when tolerance becomes important for us. Tolerance doesn't mean we let others step on us, but what we think is, I have to be tolerant in certain situations for my higher goal, which is bhakti related activities. And what is the fruit of tolerance? What do I get by this tolerance? Tolerance is not a weakness. It is obviously not letting others stamp on us. And ultimately, tolerance helps us to become spiritually advanced, right? And how can we do that unless we are focused on our goal? So this is a very important concept that Srila Prabhupada is trying to teach through us through this process of happiness and distress. And why shouldn't we get happiness? Happiness is nice, right? Happiness is good. Why we shouldn't be happy? What is the reason? So when my son goes to MIT, I have to become happy. Why you are saying I should not be happy at that fact? What is the reason? It's a normal question. Even as a parent, I will feel happy, right? Why shouldn't I feel happy? That might be the question everyone will have in this world. Srila Prabhupada, if your attention is, if this happiness is going to take you away from Krishna, then that is why he's saying we should be equipoised. Happiness and distress, there is a chance because of this happiness and distress, we will turn away from Krishna. So this shouldn't happen to us. this happiness and distress, that is why it has to be equipoised, so that it doesn't let your attention away from the process of bhakti. We can definitely show our emotion to our kid. We can definitely appreciate him. We can tell him that it's due to Krishna's mercy that you have gotten into it. But that activity, that happiness shouldn't make you, oh, I don't have to chant my rounds because I'm happy today. It shouldn't let you turn away from Krishna. That is the important point. Also, see, we as devotees, ultimately, this is not at this stage, whichever stage we are, we are there. But ultimately, we should strive for getting spiritual happiness and spiritual happiness and distress. Meaning, we should cry out for Krishna, which is what Srila Prabhupada says. We should have happiness when we glorify devotees. Also, spiritual emotions, if material emotions can be replaced with spiritual emotions, that is the direction we have to go eventually. It may not be possible for all of us, but eventually we should be heading into that direction. So does it mean a devotee, because this question normally comes, does it mean a devotee, he has to be like a stone, he shouldn't be happy, he shouldn't be sad, he should just be hard-hearted, he should be like a stone, stubborn, he should be like that? No, not at all. We have our emotions and we should let our emotions be known to people, but at the same time, we should never forget Krishna. We should never forget our service opportunities. That is important. That is the goal of this. It is not to keep us hard-hearted or anything of that sort. The ultimate goal is bigger in nature. It has to become spiritualized. Okay, so let's try to understand this through our acharyas. There is so much more into tolerance, and we need to definitely understand that. So within this class, I will make sure that you all understand and have some drive-away points as far as tolerance goes. So the basis of dualities, what is that? It is in Upateshamrita, we have a very nice quote, right? Vacho vegam manasat krodha vegam jigva vegam mudaro pasta vegam etan vegayo vishyeta dhiraha sarvan apimam prithivim sashishyat. Beautiful verse. So here it is said that a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, that is, the urge to speak has to be tolerated. He has to tolerate the mind's demands, the actions of anger, the urges of tongue, belly, and genitals, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So this means it's a very elevated thing. This person who can do all these things, he can actually make disciples all over the world. So that itself tells us that it's a very tough thing to achieve, right? But we will still look into it and see what all, however we can apply it in our life, we can definitely do it, right? So we will definitely take a look at this and understand in depth as to how this verse can be applied in our life. So there are beautiful points from Bhakti Aloka by Bhaktivinoda Thakura. So I thought maybe I will bring that in relevance and help you understand this verse in more depth. Okay, so what is this duality? How can we tolerate duality? So the dualities, Prabhupada very much says, it arises from sense perception. And what is our higher goal? The higher goal is to focus on the path of liberation or go towards the love of Godhead. And Vega Sagishnuna. So we will see what are all the 6 types of urges and how it can be curbed. Okay. So the first one is urge to speak. What is urge to speak? So this person has a desire to speak more. This person seems to be like a talkative person. If his speech is not regulated, then what happens is he starts to talk ill of others. He starts to criticize others. So to speak uselessly is the business of a fool. And materialists always, they waste their time and in this process of talking uselessly, and they face so many distress in life because of that. And pious people, what do? They sometimes observe mauna vrita or silence in order to get rid of the disturbance. And even if you do mauna vrita, if your mind is wandering in so many different directions, there is no purpose of this mauna vrita. Okay. And practitioners of devotional service, What are they asked to do? What do they do in general as a practice? They don't speak unnecessarily. Okay, that is very important. Besides, they speak on the topics regarding Krishna. All other topics, I'm talking about devotees who are into this process and they understand the core essence of this process. These devotees, they don't talk prajalpa. Prajalpa means unnecessary topics, topics apart from Krishna. So they talk only about topics which are relating to Krishna and devotional service. So this is not considered unnecessary. Okay, and therefore devotees, they enjoy talking about Hari, Hari Katha, and favorable topics to Krishna consciousness. All other topics are considered in the category of urge to speak. So one who is able to control this urge to speak, he is a sober person. So we understand from this point, we should try to reduce our prajalpa, that is talking non-Krishna conscious activity. I mean, talking about non-Krishna that is detrimental to our non-Krishna, I mean, that is detrimental to our Krishna consciousness or devotional service is something that we should avoid. And always, if given an opportunity, try to glorify Krishna, try to glorify devotees, try to talk about our acharyas, of their works, and try to talk about how nicely they have lived the life and practicing devotional service. There are so many ways our tongue can be involved. Of course, that doesn't mean that you can't work and you can't talk about stuff that is related to your office. That is also into Krishna consciousness. Just as I told you, you are earning it to serve your Vaishnava family. So it's perfectly fine. Okay, that is urge to speak. Next, let's go to mind's demands. What is the duty of a sober person? The sober person, he has to tolerate the urge of the mind. Until one is habituated to control the urge of the mind, how can one perform the devotional service with attention? It is impossible, right? A materialist, what happens to him? He sits on the chariot of the mind and never gets relief from his various urges, except during sleep. And even during sleep, some good and bad dreams come to him. So when we are on the path of the devotional service, it is easy to regulate the mind. The mind cannot remain without urges. If urge towards spiritual objects, the mind is properly engaged. So when we have a higher taste, higher rasa, then what happens? Insignificant things doesn't matter to us. So for a practitioner of devotional service has to focus on Krishna conscious activities so that his mind is properly taken care of and is not let loose. Okay, chanting, how do we get the mind under control? Through the process of chanting. Of course, when so many thoughts creep into our mind, we try to pull the mind back. This is what Srila Prabhupada says. Try. The success of a devotee is not feel frustrated to bring back the mind under control. He keeps on trying, and at one point he will succeed. Okay, so this is what his mind's demands. And how about anger? Again, to restrain the urge of anger, it's compulsory for those who are having a thirst for devotional service. Anger arises. Why? Because when the lust is unfulfilled, anger comes. This is what second chapter of Bhagavad Gita says. When one is angry, what does it lead to? It leads to ruination. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he talks, I think in Madhya Leela, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Atheva Santa. That is what I think Madhya Leela 19.149 says. Because the devotee of Lord Krishna is desireless. He doesn't have any desires in terms of material desires. He's talking about material desires here. He doesn't have any material desires. That is why he is Shanta. That is why he is peaceful. So no insignificant lust can remain in the heart of such a pure devotee who practices pure devotional service. So there is no possibility of anger arising in his mind. And those whose devotional service is motivated, meaning if they want something out of it, if there are some material cravings for him or material desires in him, and if that desire, if he wants to have, if it's not fulfilled, or if he wants to have more of such desires, more becoming greedy, right? Then what happens is, if it's unfulfilled, right, then that person becomes angry. So it is very important for us to understand Bhagavad Gita. So we know these nuances. And of course, by the constant practice of devotional service, as a person, you will start seeing things in a different perspective, and slowly you elevate. First, you may be in the mode of ignorance, and slowly you will come to passion, and eventually you will come to goodness. And when you come to the mode of goodness, you will not be an angry person, because you are able to see things as they are. You will understand the consequences. You are going to, in the mode of goodness, this person is able to see what is going to happen to him if he performs a particular action. He is able to see the consequence of it, and therefore he feels, okay, this getting angry on this useless material object is not going to lead me anywhere, because I know I may be happy with this particular cell phone or car for some time, but after that I may lose the charm for it, because a newer model will come, and this is a never-ending thing. So he understands the consequence, and because of which he will not become angry. So what happens through the process of devotional service is that you get slowly elevated. Very important to understand that concept. All these things, all these urges, they can be controlled only by devotional service. Slowly, slowly, slowly. It doesn't, obviously the change doesn't happen overnight, but it will happen eventually to that person. That is the faith we have. And we have seen that in reality on many people as well. And then we see tongue's urge. What is the tongue's urge? It is everyone's duty to subdue the urge of the tongue. Materialistic people, they are always trying to enjoy different kinds of taste, right? They want to chew, suck, so many different tastes they want to enjoy with regards to the food. There is hankering, more and more hankering. But those who are wandering for the pleasure of the tongue, for them to attain Krishna is very difficult. Therefore, what it is said is that one should fill his belly with whatever is easily available. Offering Krishna foods in the mode of goodness and honoring them as prasad, the tongue gets satisfied. So this is what is the urges of the tongue. And then urges of the belly, it's also a disturbance. And the requirement of the stomach is to, why do we eat? We have to maintain our life and mitigate the hunger. That is the reason we eat. And those who are thirsty for devotional service, they should moderately eat, as I told you. Those who endeavor to overeat, they are called gluttons. And one of the qualities is eat what is necessary. By eating less, what happens is the body is healthy and does not disturb one's devotional service. What happens when we eat, even when we overly eat, too much of items, we tend to become lazy, we tend to become sleepy, we are not able to concentrate and focus. So many things we are practically able to see, right? Because of this overeating thing. Even though it is prasad, even though we are honoring prasad, we should not abuse it. So we have to carefully make sure that we eat whatever is necessary, as I told you in the beginning, moderately eat. So these people, there is also for them, for these devotees, they also fast on prescribed days such as Ekadasi. So thereby they control the urge of the stomach. And we all know about urge of the genital, how it has to be controlled. That is why Srila Prabhupada wanted to inculcate that, legalize in the sense, illicit sex was something that is forbidden in our religious principles. And hence Prabhupada encouraged the Grahastha ashrama so that people, they get married and produce Krishna conscious children and restrict. And this way there is restricted use of the genitals also. So this is something that we need to understand. That is NOI verse number 1. What happens when we are able to follow through the urges and control the urges that we have with respect to all these, then we are able to get the disciples all over the world. So we are even if we are not there, if we at least know our goal, then we are situated in a good position, right? And that is the reason why I brought the relevance of tolerance to the urge, because we have to control the urges, and that is these are all types of toleration, right? Toleration to different things, and it's very important to understand that. Then Dvandva Sahishnuna. So Sitoshna, if you look at verse number 6.5, it talks about Sitoshna, Sukha Dukkha, Mana Apamana. It talks about all that, right? And Sita Ushna, that is heat and cold, honor and dishonor, all this has to be tolerated. Dvandva Sahishnuna, that is toleration of the dualities. And if you look at Jadaparata's case, so he tolerated the insult that was there. The king had posed to him. The king was furious on Jadaparata because he was not carrying the palanquin in a right way. Jadaparata, he was focusing on the ants. He didn't want the ant. He was always conscious that he should not step on the ants, and hence there was a jerk in the carrying of the palanquin. And what happened then was the King Raghugana, he happened to furiously reprimand Jadaparata, and then he sarcastically also commented Jadaparata. And once Jadaparata began to speak, then he applauded Raghugana, applauded him for his wisdom, because he then understood how ignorant he was. And so obviously, we see in the case of Jadaparata, he also tolerated eating the burnt rice that was given to him by his brothers. When the dacoits had captured him, he initially, they were even going to kill him, but he was not carried away by the sukha or dukkha, but his mind and attention was focused on the Lord. Whatever Lord wills, because they are in that stage where happiness and distress is not affecting them at all. And they think that it is mercy of the Lord. Whatever happens, see, even if they are in this world, they are going to serve the Lord. Even and if they die, they are again going to serve the Lord in the spiritual kingdom. So it doesn't matter for them wherever they are. But in our case, we are not there yet. So we have to protest to those people who are trying to kill us. So it may not be practically applicable for us, but at the same time, whatever we can do to help ourselves, we have to do, because we are not situated in that platform. So accordingly, the relevance will change, but the point is our goal should be that. That is the understanding. So that is remaining undisturbed in provocating situations. That is what Srimad Bhagavatam teaches us due to the story, correlating the story of Jadaparata. And so it's a beautiful story, a lot to learn, lot of lessons to learn from that story as such. And what is the next Sahishnuna? Para Mata Sahishnuna, that is tolerating the opinion of others. So we should learn to appreciate the opinion of others. God can empower many people. Devotee of the Lord, what is they consider? They consider everybody to be respectful. If you are respectful to others, then you can be cool-headed, and then you can be peaceful in your heart. So if you look at the birds don't compare, but human beings, they compare. But we have to tolerate when others pull you down also. They can badmouth you. Some people can go to the extent and trouble you in such a way that a person can even commit suicide. They may even say such harsh words upon them. But the point is, it's not going to lead them anywhere. They have, see, if somebody is criticizing another person, the person who criticizes, he is going to be taken care of. He is going to be taken care of by Lord. Because what happens if that person is a devotee, he is going to fall down from this process of devotional service. If that person is going to be a non-devotee, then karma comes into play. Karma will take care of it. Whatever he does to the person in this life, the same thing will come back to him at a later point in time. So either ways we are taken care of. Why should we start to bother about others' opinion? If we are situated in some platform, then we are situated in that platform, and let these things not bother us. So that is why toleration to the opinion of others matters. And then Para Utkrishna Sahishnuta, that is tolerating the progress of others. Say in the case of Bhagavad Gita, we clearly see that Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, they were not able to tolerate the progress of Pandavas. Right? It is an important learning lesson for all of us to understand that we have to tolerate the progress of others. They have a certain karma because of which they go to such elevated position. Even devotees, right? We compare and contrast. Oh, see, this devotee is doing so much devotional activities. That is because of his sadhana, that Lord has given that mercy upon him. If we are trying to become envious or jealous of him, are we not becoming envious of Krishna indirectly? because Krishna has sanctioned, and because of the sanction is why this person is behaving, this person is progressing, how he is progressing. So very important, these subtle things make a big difference to our life. So that is tolerating the progress of others. And then tolerating inconveniences. Summer, in summer, if we have to cook without an AC, cooking in May and June, it's impossible. But again, that period will pass, so no worries. Winter, taking a cold bath. Those days, all our the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they used to live in temples, and that time when there is no heater, nothing like that. So they used to take cold bath and cold shower. And this is for the sake of Krishna. So that is why we have to tolerate inconvenience. And similarly, we also see that Arjuna should fight with Bhishma and others. It was difficult for him. But because Krishna says it's the will of the Lord, and Krishna's will surpasses anything else, and that is why Arjuna has to fight. So some inconveniences will come, but we still have to tolerate those inconveniences. So this is what is happiness and distress, and how we can tolerate so many things that we talked about, like tolerating inconveniences, tolerating the progress of others, tolerating the opinion of others, how we have to be strong during provocating situations, quoting the example of Jataparata. And then we also saw about Dvandva Sahishnuna, meaning tolerating the dualities. And then we saw about the urges from NOY verse, which actually substantiates and tells us that what is the platform we have to ultimately be in. So I do have, if you have no questions, then I can proceed. If not, I wanted to leave some time for question and answers so that we can discuss through that and then move on as necessary.
Hare Krishna. Anybody have a question?
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Mataji, you may continue.
Okay. So there are no questions, so I'll continue and talk more about this subject matter. So this is very important because it's a practical learning for all of us, and slowly when we understand that these subtle nuances are there, then we can definitely understand the bigger picture and the goal clearly. And so here Srila Prabhupada says, so understand that we are essentially unchanging. That is, we are spirit souls. And the thing is, we should feel less threatened by the change, because these material things, they constantly change, and we should just not, oh, this is changing, and they shouldn't be a surprise to you, because that is the fact, and accept it with greater equanimity. That is what he says. This is the first application point from that verse. So very important to understand that we are spirit souls, that we don't change at all. And whenever we are seeing things that are changing, we should just accept that change with a greater equanimity. That is the application that we have from Bhagavad Gita. And then, so let's also get into the verse for today. I think 11th verse is also something that Mataji wanted me to cover. So I'll go into the 11th verse. 11th verse, Srila Prabhupada talks about it in the purport to say, naturally, when one is adapted to spiritual way of life, he will not mix with materialistic men. That would go against his grain. One may test himself by seeing how far he is inclined to live in a solitary place without unwanted association. So Srila Prabhupada talks about how one can spiritualize his family by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, by worshipping the deities, by discussing Bhagavad Gita, by worshipping the limbs of the process of devotional service, and then how we can actually spiritualize your home. And he also says, naturally, a devotee has no taste for unnecessary sporting or cinema or enjoying some social function, because why doesn't he participate in all these activities? It seems like a nice thing for a materialistic person, but why doesn't devotee enjoy these things? Because he understands that these are simply a waste of time. The idea here is that A devotee understands that there is this priority in life and we have only so much time. And if we are serious about devotional service, then we have to seriously be involved in the devotional activities. By wasting our time and splitting our time in engaging in other activities, where will the time for devotional activity come? By using all our time in purposeful ways. So purposeful ways, this can lead to a deeper realization. That is, you start to understand that hanging out with friends, people going to gossip about the others or drinking together, people go and enjoying in all sorts of things. These are all pointless. These are all not necessary. That is devotee's perspective. Devotee do not want to have relationships in the sense materialistic relationship. Naturally, he wants to have relationship with family members and others. But the point is that he will not socialize with others if it is detrimental to his devotional service. So balancing has to be done according to the individual needs. So this is what Srila Prabhupada is trying to say. And within devotee community, what we do, we socialize, but that is Krishna-centered. It is not self-centered. It is not for sense gratification, but it is to gratify the senses of Krishna. So we socialize with devotees, but try to avoid materialistic association because it is detrimental to our devotional service. And that is the reason why we are trying to do what we are trying to do. So we don't want to harm our KC, right? We don't want to harm our Krishna consciousness. So it's very important that we protect our consciousness, and whatever that needs to be done to protect our consciousness, we do that. Okay, not mixing with materialistic people. So the devotee focuses on not getting contaminated by material desires. So this is also another reason. And so in this way, what happens is one tries to understand the philosophical truth to life. And in this way, one progresses in devotional service by following what, by actually getting away from these relationships that are detrimental to his devotional practice. This is what happens. So with this, I will conclude today's presentation. Thank you so much, dear devotees, for patiently listening to me. And all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to our Acharyas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Anybody have a question? Hare Krishna, Partha Prabhuji. Kindly take over, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, we are not able to hear you.
Prabhuji, we are not able to hear you still.
iPhone Makesh Prabhuji, kindly mute your it's iPhone Makesh Prabhuji, kindly mute. Partha Prabhuji, we are not able to hear.
Do we have any questions also, Prabhuji, or are we good on the content?
Hare Krishna, Prahlad Prabhuji, Avinash Prabhuji, any question? Pramila Mataji.
Oh, thank you. Very nice class, Mataji. It was good class. So I enjoyed the class. Yeah, very, very nice explanation of Matra Spashastu Konteya Sitoshara Sukadukada. So yeah, very, very nice. Thank you very much, Mataji.
Thank you for your kind words, Avinash Prabhu. Really appreciate it. Okay. Right. So if we don't have any questions, maybe Parth Prabhu is having some issues with his audio. We are missing his summary today. I really miss it also. So maybe next time, Prabhuji, we can have your association.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay, we conclude the session, Mataji.
okay. Vancha
Okay.
kalpatarubhyascha
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta
Srila
की जय, नामाचार्य श्रीला हरिदास ठाकुर की जय, श्रीला
जय।
प्रभुपाद की जय. हरे
जय।
कृष्ण.
Hare
Radhika Kasturi Mataji ki jai.
All
And
glory
can we-
to Krishna.
Can we all
Thank you.
chant Hare Krishna
Please.
for to
Yeah.
glorify Radhika Kasturi Mataji?
Please, please.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare.
Thank you so much, Mataji. And very nice class. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear devotees. It is always a pleasure to come to all of you and talk Krishna Katha and glorify Bhagavad Gita. So thank you again for this opportunity. And
Thank you.
sorry about audio issue, Path Prabhu. Really miss your association today. But see you again in the next class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you.
And one thing, Prabhuji, we can all pray for Kritika Mataji's grandson, if that's okay. Can we all chant Hare
Please,
Krishna 3
please.
times?
Yes, yes.
And then pray for the beautiful boy who is also going to come into Krishna consciousness. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.